Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7. So though it does feel like, The Flash has only just come back to our screens after that massive break that we had due to the pandemic, we are already 1/3 of the way through this season with 6 episodes now having been aired on our screens of the 18 episode season that we have for Season 7. Now, of course, there is, still a lot to come our way this season, that's obvious. Now, there is some known stuff that's coming our way and also some unknown stuff and then some known but unknown stuff at the same time, if that makes any sort of sense. Stuff that we sort of know about, but there's still no real details about. That's what I meant there. Now, of course, a lot of that unknown stuff is placed in the back half of this season. Like, we know where they're roughly going in general over the next 4, 5, 6 episodes of this season with all these new forces and everything like that. But where they go after that storyline's done is up in the air. Like, we know Godspeed is going to be in this season, but, they could be in this Force storyline that we have going on at the moment, and Godspeed could be showing up soon, or they could be in the back half. That's for us to wait and find out, I guess. Like, that's a part of, like, the stuff that's known but unknown at the same time. We know Godspeed's there, but other than that, what the hell's going on? But one thing that was revealed early, I think last week, what was revealed is that we would finally in capital letters be getting Bart Allen, aka Impulse, introduced onto the show, with there being a slight change with Bart Allen being the son of Barry and Iris rather than the grandson from the distant future. We still aren't sure exactly why they did that, as it just seems that they could be doing Nora 2.0. But I guess I have to wait and see exactly what they plan to do all this. But like, that was one of my complaints in general, sort of with Bart potentially coming in, is that they did a lot of Bart with Nora. Like, Nora was female Bart. So I'm interested to see how they make it different. And you think making him the grandson like he is in the comics would be that difference? But maybe they make him the son, but he is from that distant future, like the 30th century area. Who knows what they're going to do? As I said, that's for us to wait and find out. Now, along with this, they also announced who will be playing the character, and that is Jordan Fisher. Now, I personally wasn't too familiar with Jordan, but he is fairly well known to a decent crowd, so many people are super stoked. I was going to say super soaked, but super stoked that he is playing the role. And just based off his social media and stuff like that, he seems like a super chill and likable dude. So I'm excited to see him here in the show later on this season. Now, in regards to that, we know that he is first appearing in the 150th episode of the show, a milestone episode. But that is also episode 17 for this season, the second last episode of the 18 episode season. So at that point, stuff will be going down pretty heavily, you would have to assume. Now, there isn't much known about the 150th episode in general, the debut episode for Bart Allen, but we may have had more details come out that could give us a big hint as to what could be going down in this episode later on towards the end of Season 7. So we heard a while ago from Eric Wallace, the showrunner for The Flash, that John Wesley's ship's Jay Garrick was planned to return sometime in Season 7, but no real specifics were given in regards to all of that at the time. With John himself also saying that he was set to return at some point. Of course, we know Jay Garrick will also be in Stargirl Season 2 in a flashback episode, which is exciting. But John did reveal on Twitter, just through general responses to people, that he will be traveling to Vancouver for The Flash in around a week or so. And of course, as I'm sure a good amount of you do know, there is a 2-week quarantine still in place when traveling into Canada from the United States. So you have to stay in like a hotel and various things like that. So he might get there in a week, but he won't be able to film anything until like around 3 or so weeks from now. And at that point, that will be around the time of filming for that 150th episode, because they're currently on episode 14, I'm pretty sure. Now, Eric Wallace, who of course I said is the showrunner for The Flash, if you still didn't know that, he's talked about this season focusing on speedster lore and mythos in greater detail than previous seasons. The most since like the earlier seasons of like Season 1 and 2. Now, that doesn't mean, oh my god, the whole season's about it, but it focuses on a lot of detail, or a great detail that we haven't seen since those seasons. Now, the current storyline with the different forces sort of relates to that, because it does involve the Speed Force, but Eric Wallace referred to multiple speedsters playing a good part of this season, both good and bad speedsters. So I think it's safe to assume that the back half of this season will be where all of that plays out most likely, especially seeing that Bart Allen will be showing up towards the end of that storyline, maybe to help out with what's going on there, whether that is intentional by him or not is another question. Maybe it's just good timing from him, or maybe he intentionally went, I've got to get there on that date because I need to help. Who knows? Now, I guess the big question with this whole back half thing is, like, if there's good speedsters with, you know, Barry, Bart, you know, Jay as well, like, what's the bad? Like, what's the bad? Is Godspeed the threat, or is there something else there? Because this is something that we brought up a decent amount of times, and that's that Godspeed, at the larger picture of the comics, isn't a villain. He's anti-hero, but more leans towards the good side because he sort of is like a part of the Flash family, or extended Flash family, if you want to call it. So will they make Godspeed this big threat? And I don't know if they will. I think they might mislead us to think that Godspeed is a threat, or they might make it that the Godspeeds aren't really that big of a threat at all, and they were just something that was used by a bigger villain, if you want to call it. I mean, we have brought up the character of like Paradox, or they could use Raijin or something like that, but who knows exactly who they could use. Maybe it's Red Death. I don't know. We've been talking about him, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But I guess the big question around if it is a bad speedster that they do use, or something revolving around that, are they from the future? Is that why Bart comes back? I mean, Bart's coming back at a very specific time, second last episode of the season. So you could obviously chuck that in as a sort of like somewhat likely thing to potentially happen. But one thing that I am very curious to see if it plays out, because we haven't had any really real hints at it, and I think it'd be really cool if this happened, and that's like what's going on with Wally West. Is Wally going to show up? Because by the looks of it, we're going to have Barry, Bart, and good old Jay Garrick. So why not Wally? Now, the big issue around this is the quarantine thing, and I think Keenan Lonsdale is sort of busy at the moment. I don't know what it's going to be like in a month's time or something, whether he'll be free, but once again, that quarantine comes into it, and I don't know if he would just go up to do one episode with the quarantine thing. Like, would you spend 3 weeks just to do one episode rather than going up for 7 or 8 days to do an episode like he did last season? So I would love if Wally showed up. I'd love for Keenan Lonsdale to come back. So imagine having Barry, Wally, Bart, and Jay in an episode later this season fighting 1, 2, 3 multiple bad speedsters, or just this big villain that needs to be taken down, needs all their help. That would be awesome if we had that. Now, if he doesn't show up now, that's not the end of it. They could do something they could do something in season 8, especially when the whole COVID thing has calmed down. You don't have to do the quarantine, everything like that. They could easily do it then. But obviously we know that it definitely seems at least that we're going to have Barry, Jay, and Bart in this episode. So it's that's a certainty where you could shove Wally in there and it'd be this awesome episode. So we might get word on that. I think they would actually try and they'd let us know if that was going to happen or not. They wouldn't leave that as like a surprise or something, because they'd probably want people to get excited about that, for having those 4 speedsters on screen on the same episode. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But this does lead into another question. That's, will the episode be like a self-contained, fun sort of, not, I guess, filler episode, if you want to call it, like an Enter Flash Time, which had a lot of speedster aspects, or will it be relevant to the plot, like the 100th episode was? The 100th episode was a cool episode. It did a lot of stuff, but it did sort of revolve around the plot of the main season, even though I think at the end of it, it was sort of redundant, because I don't think they did anything. I think, from memory, I don't think it actually ended up working. But seeing it's the second last episode of the season, or the penultimate episode of the season, it would be shocking if it isn't a key part of the season story. Unless the end of the season is meant to be this massive cliffhanger where it doesn't get resolved till next season. But I don't think we can deal with another season 6 leading into season 7. I think that just should end it where it should end, in the finale. So they could, well, it should play into it, if not feel like part 1 of the season's finale. That's usually how they work. Like, the second last episode of a season, for a lot of the shows, usually feels like part 1 of the finale. So you get the setup, and then you get a lot of the payoff in that finale. So I would be shocked if it doesn't play into that. But this is where, like, the Wally conversation comes back into it, and that's around Bart. So Bart's appearing in the second last episode. They've put him down as, like, I think, a recurring guest. Now, usually they put down this because then they decide if they want to up him to a larger role. I'm sure you won't know about that until probably after season 7 ends, maybe. I'm not too sure. But the show will be heading into filming for season 8 as like around the time that the 150th episode airs. So the Flash doesn't look like it's going to end until about July-ish, I think, like sometime in July. Like, that's when the finale will air, and that's when they're going to be like heading into film the next season. So they won't really be able to use the response from fans to the character of Bart Allen as to whether they keep him on the show and up him to a series regular or anything like that. they will have to make that decision just based off the performance and the general chemistry on the show. I think 99 times out of 9 they usually get that right. It's pretty rare they mess up on that. Donna smoke on arrow. But yeah, so it's pretty rare they mess up in regards to that, and they usually get a good feel of what fans would like in a character. And just based off everything I've seen just through the general browsing with Jordan Fisher, and I think how he would play Bart, I'd be surprised if people wouldn't like him. But I guess it depends how they handle him. But we'll have to wait and see. It depends what the season 8 story is. If they can work him into the show and make him work, then keep him. Then do it. If it's going to be a situation where they can't handle the story like a Wally in season, 3 and 4, or back half of season 3 and pretty much all of 4, and of course Nora in season 5, where it wasn't really not being able to handle Nora, it's that they focused so much on Nora that Iris just got wiped to the side and was an issue. They couldn't do anything with their character, and then Barry was a weird character in that season as well. So they got to get that good balance. I think Eric Wallace does a really good job of balancing all the characters on the show. So I think he'd be able to handle Bart if Bart became a more main thing on the show. But I guess it depends what they plan to do next season. But if it's Speedster centric next season, we're going Speedster City, Speedster Mania, then why not keep him? And that could lead into Keenan Lonsdale and and John Wesley Shipp as coming back as both Wally West and Jay Garrick. They could work that into season 8 and do a really cool Flash family episode in that season at some point. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they decide to do. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I thought I'd just sort of compile all my thoughts around this because it's sort of a quick video when they initially announced the Bart Allen casting, and I wanted to link it up with some of the other questions and details that have come out, so hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all this. Are you stoked to see Bart? Would you like to see him continue on into season 8, or do you want to wait and see what he's like when he shows up before you think about that? But I guess by that point they would have already made that decision where he's continuing or not. I don't know, I have to wait and see. But yeah, let me know your opinions down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.